later all the time. Cross the line. It's what they're so good at. No kidding. I don't think so. Wearing thin. We're figuring it out. You won't be trusted anymore. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yahweh's creation. TGIF. It's Friday, folks, the 5th of June, 2026. These are the WTF reports. I'm your host, Dave vonKleist. WTF with the facts. And if those facts make you exclaim WTF, well, then so be it. It's not like we don't have enough reason to say, what the is going on? Well, it looks like Congress went ahead and passed the NDAA with Section 224. Yeah, are we really that surprised? Now it's going to go to the Senate. And it'll probably roll right through the Senate, too. Just despite the fact that over 60% of the American people have had it up to their frickin' eyeballs with Israel. Now, Israel, of course, we keep being told over and 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 over again that Israel is our greatest ally. Well, you know, campers, there was a time when we had a lot of allies. Yeah, the United States was friends with so many other countries. We had plenty of allies after World War II. And, we were doing trade with everybody. We did have a few enemies, of course, but we had lots of allies. But you know what? Today, we only have one, and it's Israel. Is that the kind of friend that you want? Seriously, folks. I mean, I'm not here to diss the Jewish people or anything like that. You're free to believe whatever it is that you want to believe. But this whole concept about Judeo-Christian values, it doesn't work. That's like oil and water values. They just don't mix. They just don't. And when you see and hear, the voices of Israelis on some of their radio shows, they are, one guy actually said, if I could push a button and get rid of all of the Palestinians, I would push it right now. I would push it right now. And they don't care. They just, if they have to kill them all, well, then so be it. What was it, was it Ben Gvir or was it Randy Fine who said we should nuke them? God's chosen people? Really? Really? Oh, man. Anyway. So, the NDAA is going to go to the Senate now. So I would, again, encourage all you folks to make your phone calls, write your letters, send your emails, whatever you feel you got to do. Not that it's going to make a whole lot of difference, but at least you're making your voices heard. But at the same time, you're probably going to be put on some sort of a list. Anybody who dares to stand against the Zionist regime of Israel is going to be on a list. And you know what? I'm proud to be on the list. I said many years ago, if you're not on their list, you're not doing enough. And I'll tell you, I've been on their list since, 95? Something like that. Yeah, once you get on their list, you don't get on it. So I'm at the point right now where I just don't care. For those of you old schoolers, the old school patriots out there, you know my history. I go back several decades. And yeah, I took some time off because I threw my arms up and said, this is crazy. Even the patriot groups have been compromised. The 9/11 Truth Movement was compromised. And I got to the point where I just said, I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be the talk show host. I don't want to be the patriotic balladeer. I don't want to be the documentary producer. I don't want to do it anymore. So I basically self-ejected, put myself on a self-imposed hiatus. And to be honest, I don't know, maybe this is just an exercise in futility. Maybe as I've gotten older, I want to still feel like I have some quote-unquote purpose in life, And this whole thing about a legacy, I could give a rat's butt about legacy. Who the heck is going to remember you in 100 years? Who's going to remember me? Nobody. Who cares? Seriously, I mean, I've got boxes down in the basement with photo albums that belong to my mom and my grandmother. And I can go open up these photo albums and look through, and I don't know any of these people. I don't remember any of these people. Here's a picture of my great-grandma. I don't know her. Who cares? Doesn't make any difference. Be here now is what Richard Alpert or Baba Ram Das said many, many years ago. What matters is what you're doing today. What matters is the now. And I'm not going to get all esoteric about it, but that's what it boils down to. What you do today is today. What happened yesterday is in the past. And if something's got screwed up and you're worried about it, you're just, got a self-imposed ball and chain. And as far as, worrying about the future, well, that's just wasted imagination. So, I don't know what got me down this particular path, but, I'm watching which way the world is going, and I'm just saying, are we going to have any effective change or not? I've got, how many listeners are out there listening to this broadcast right now? It doesn't make any difference. Back then when I was doing the Power Hour with Joyce, we had a huge listenership. That's why Alex Jones was so pissed off at me. We were rivaling him back in, 2004, 2005, something like that. And he just couldn't stand it. He kept on seeing me as some sort of competitor. No, Alex, we're supposed to be teammates fighting the same monster, the same New World Order, the same globalist agenda. But no, this is one of the reasons why I said, the heck with this 9/11 truth movement, the Patriot movement, all these other movements. Because everybody sees everybody else as a competitor. No, we're supposed to be working together. And I don't care, we may disagree on certain points and everything, but the bottom line is just like Sun Tzu said, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And we all have a common enemy. And it's this globalist movement. And unfortunately, some people don't see it, They're more wrapped up in worrying about selling their book or their video or, making money and, or getting the praise and the accolades and, the big rounds of applause. I could care less about that crap. It's one of the reasons, I felt really uncomfortable with that, to be quite honest. I don't want all that praise and I just want the world to change. I want things to progress the way they're supposed to progress. And get us out of this insane matrix that was created several hundred years ago with corporations and, this isn't the direction that humanity was supposed to take. We took a wrong turn a long time ago. And unfortunately, because of ego and pride, most people don't want to admit that. But, I don't know, I'm off on somewhat of a soapbox today, but, I hate to be, I'm not exactly enthusiastic about what's going on with this country. I'm somewhat pessimistic because, unfortunately, too many people have got their heads stuck in the sand or in some other place of their anatomy. And just remember, if your head is stuck in the sand, your butt is exposed. And I'm really, really disappointed with a lot of the veterans that I know out there. It's no secret, I hang out at the local VFW because, there's some good people there. I hang out with the blue-collar folks. I don't like hanging out with the people who like to rattle their jewelry. But, no, I'm really disappointed with a lot of the vets out there. They figure that, now that they're retired or they've done their tour of duty, et cetera, they don't have to worry about it. No, as far as I'm concerned, when you take the oath to support and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, that's an oath for life. Even if you're discharged and you're retired, no, and to be honest, I never served in the military. I couldn't, when I was a kid, I split my kneecap when I was playing front yard football. My knee came down on one of those water meter things. That was fun. But no, I never served in the military. But I took the oath. I served in other ways. And I understand that oath does not expire. Like I said, when you retire or you finished your tour of duty, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to stand by the Constitution. And it breaks my heart to see so many people out there who claim to be good, red, white, and blue, mom, dad, apple pie patriots. And yet, they don't want to talk about it. No, we're not supposed to talk about politics or religion. No, not supposed to do that. So, anyway, like I said, so I'm somewhat disappointed in a lot of the veterans that are out there. Now, there are a lot of veterans out there that I'm very proud of as well. I don't want to put them all into one basket. But the bottom line here is that we don't have enough people who are willing to take action to let their voices be heard.
Oh, I don't want to make any trouble here. I don't want to rock the boat, you know. If I start speaking out, people are going to be looking at me.
Yeah, stand up and be counted, damn it. Damn it, do it. Anyway, okay, a couple of things to get to today. As I mentioned, the National Defense Authorization Act has gone through Congress. And despite the fact that the evidence is all over the place that this was the brainchild of Bibi Netanyahu. Now, this has probably been going on for quite some time. We know, like I said, Israel is our greatest ally. Oh, gosh, with friends like that, who needs enemies? But the bottom line here is that Bibi Netanyahu's own words in his letter to Congressman Stutzman, and all I have to do is read the first line. It says, I was glad to receive your proposed congressional resolution endorsing my plan. It was Bibi's plan. So we have members of Congress now, and of course the military, who are openly goose-stepping along with Bibi Netanyahu. This is nuts. And anybody who dares to say anything against this whole thing, of course you're going to be on a list of targeted individuals who will be called anti-Semites. You know, and oh, by the way, there's that huge lawsuit with the Southern Poverty Law Center. Yeah, by the way, let me see here. The introduction to the lawsuit says, and I read, the Southern Poverty Law Center, the SPLC, stated their stated mission included the dismantling of white supremacy. I'm going to go back to that term in a minute, white supremacy. The dismantling of white supremacy and confronting hate across the country. However, unbeknownst to donors, some of their donated money was being used to fund the leaders and organizers of racist groups, including the Ku Klux Klan, the Aryan Nations, the National Alliance. The Southern Poverty Law Centers paid informants, or field resources they call them, engaged in the active promotion of racist groups at the same time that the SPLC was denouncing the same groups on its website. So, I mean, I could carry on, but the Southern Poverty Law Center is in deep fecal matter right now. And well, they should be. But you see, folks, this is standard operating procedure. It's not just the Southern Poverty Law Center. It's also the Defamation League. No, I call it the Defecation League because they're full of crap. And, and the thing is that they're out there with guns a-blazing. Jonathan Greenblatt, they don't like you criticizing them. And so, and by the way, I was trying to find it, but I saw about a week ago, it was a compilation of newscasts from Australia. And in these newscasts, they were talking about this, there was a Jewish restaurant, and there was a Jewish synagogue, and there was a Jewish business, and each one of them had been vandalized, and swastikas were painted on their buildings. And, of course, the media is all there and saying, oh, my gosh, it's a hate group. There's terrorists out there going after the Jewish folks out there. Well, comes to find out that in every single case, they did it to themselves so that they could draw attention and blame all the other and create more anger and more hatred, etc. That's what they do. They are the masters of false flags. Meanwhile, if you draw attention to any of this stuff, oh, you're on some sort of a list. Here's Jonathan Greenblatt from the Anti-Defecation League, and basically explaining what they will do when they find out that you're speaking out against them. Here he is.
Number one, we measure and track. Number two, we monitor and disrupt. We have a whole apparatus. I have 40 analysts working full-time, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, monitoring extremists.
Okay, what is an extremist? We don't even know what that is. I think we know what he wants you to know, Anyone who stands up against Israel.
We monitor them online, social media, messaging apps, video games, cryptocurrency.
Radio shows, maybe?
Podcasts.
Yeah, podcasts.
Short-form video, Wikipedia, LLMs. We monitor these people, and we share the intelligence with the FBI.
Oh, okay. So the ADL is working with the FBI. I wonder if the Southern Poverty Law Center was doing the same thing. I'm sure. We'll go back to Charlottesville, North Carolina. We all know what happened there. And it's all coming out that whole thing was orchestrated by the Southern Poverty Law Center. This is their standard operating procedure, folks.
You saw last month, you heard about the thing that happened at Wilshire Boulevard Temple? Our analysts investigated what happened. They said they were Koreatown for Palestine, this group of people. They weren't. We were able to ascertain they were from a group called the Turtle Island Liberation Front. Turtle Island is how left-wing activists refer to the United States. They don't call it America, they call it Turtle Island. Like the Iranians call it the Zionist entity, right? They only call it by its name. The Turtle Island Liberation Front, we gave them a whole dossier. What is Turtle Island Liberation Front? What are their ideas, their goals? Who are they? We identified the people who were in the synagogue. This was on Wednesday, December the 10th. On Monday, December the 15th, this is going to ring a bell. Kash Patel announced they cracked a terror ring where they arrested 4 people who were planning New Year's Eve bombings. Turtle Island Liberation Front.
I'd like to see an investigation into this front. I wonder, and I don't have a reason not to wonder, whether that was organized by the very folks who were trying to expose them. Again, this is standard operating procedure for these people.
At least one of the people I know for certain was in the building at Wilshire Boulevard Temple, vandalizing it and disrupting the event.
Isn't it interesting? I was just talking about vandalizing Jewish businesses and synagogues in Australia, and it turned out in every single case they'd done it to themselves.
So we're monitoring left-wing radicals like the DSA and the anti-war crazies and the pro-Palestine crazies. We're monitoring right-wing extremists.
What, pro-Palestine crazies? So if you are pro-Palestine, if you believe that the Palestinians have a right to exist, I mean, after all, Israel has a right to exist, don't they? Well, I guess the Palestinians don't. And if you believe that they do, he just said, you're a crazy.
It's like white supremacist, armed militia groups.
Oh, white supremacist. Okay. What about Jewish supremacists? Anybody ever talk about that? How come people don't ever talk about that? How come people don't talk about the Talmud over and over again? It refers to non-Jews as goy or goyim. And we are less than human. They say if you eat with a goy, it's like eating with a dog. This is their mentality. These are their values, not mine. Okay? And what was it, Ursula von der Leyen, what was it, about 6 months ago? I should have pulled the audio clip up. I've got it in my computer. She says, Europe has the values of the Talmud. No, they don't. No, they don't. All right, let's finish this.
Monitoring political Islamists and Christian nationalists, all of them. And then we train. We're the largest trainer of law enforcement in America, extremism and hate. We train 20,000 officers every year.
Okay. So he's saying right there they're training police officers, and we know now that many police and the ICE officers are being trained by the IDF. And we all know the morals of the IDF and the Mossad. We all know. They've shown us over and over and over again. And it's really interesting. We see, remember during the first Gulf War, we were seeing all these videos of the Scud missiles, and we were seeing all kinds of reports every single night. Wolf Blitzer and, was bringing us, what Norman Schwarzkopf was saying. I mean, every single day there were updates and briefings on the Gulf War. But now, no, you don't see that. You don't see what's going on over in Israel. You don't see the fact, well, they do show you some videos of the Israeli Defense Forces, out there, firing their guns and stuff like that. But one thing you never see, I have yet to see any Some people say there are a few videos out there, so I'm not going to say there aren't any, but I haven't seen any videos of dead IDF soldiers. I don't see, we used to see that. We used to say, oh my gosh, look at the carnage, look at the bodies from this conflict and this war and stuff like that. I don't see any of that. What I do see are bodies of Palestinians. What I do see is videos of little children carrying water buckets and then getting blown up. What I do see is rescue workers running into a hospital after it was just hit by a missile, and they're in there trying to get the survivors out, and then they get hit again. What I do see is our forces bombing, school children in Iran, not once, not twice, but 3 times, triple tapped. I'm not seeing any of the Israeli casualties, although we have seen some videos that say that they're, here's a video of Tel Aviv getting hit. Okay, but we don't see the casualties. So, like I was saying, the media, I have no faith whatsoever in the domestic media. I keep telling everybody, look outside of the domestic media. I tried to look at some of the alternative networks out there. News Nation, yeah, they put out some good stuff. But I'm sorry, they are goose-stepping along with Israel. And One America News, OAN, when I first discovered them about 10 years ago, I was saying, man, it's a breath of fresh air to have another news network out there that's telling the truth. It's sort of like when Fox News jumped onto the scene, back in the 90s? It was like, oh my gosh, we've got an alternative. Instead of watching ABC, NBC, CBS, and CNN, now we had a new network, Fox. And at first, yeah, they were on the ball. But it didn't take long for the corporate Borg to assimilate them. So the point is that none of the domestic networks are telling you the truth. None of them. So you have to look outside of the cage. You've got to go to Al Jazeera or RT, Sky News, maybe a little bit. BBC, no. And they're just as bad as CNN. So if you want the truth, and you've heard the saying, the truth is never easy to find, just keep in mind that it's always easy to sit on your couch or your armchair or your recliner and have the remote in this hand and just channel surf. Okay, here's this network, here's that network. If the truth is never easy to find, how easy is it for you to sit on your butt and scan the bands? If you want the truth, you're going to have to hunt for it. And this is why social media has become so important. Yes, there's a lot of garbage out there. Yes, there's a lot of AI-generated BS out there. Yes, you got to be really careful and discerning when you're watching stuff. But the point is that there are regular people out there posting all kinds of information that you really need to have. Now, one thing that I'm really concerned about, and we were just talking about false flags, and we do know that there's one particular group of individuals out there that are real good at it. Real good. As a matter of fact, Bibi Netanyahu, you may recall, a month or so ago, he was saying that, Iran now has these long intercontinental atomic missiles, ballistic missiles. And now, what if they could reach out and they could hit New York, Boston, Washington, D.C., Miami, Mar-a-Lago? Remember when he said that? Maybe he was setting the table. What if? I'm not saying that they would do this, but what if? I get to say what if, don't I? What if a missile was to hit Washington, D.C., or, God forbid, New York City or Boston or something like that? A big old missile comes and goes, and everybody goes, oh my God, the United States is under attack. And then Israel says, look what Iran did. Could we trust them to say that? Is it possible that they would resort to that? I mean, let's face it, folks. Israel's reputation is in the hopper right now. Between 60 and 70% of Americans do not support Israel anymore. This is why they're so desperate. As a matter of fact, they're so desperate that Bibi made the following statement. Of course, he was speaking in his native tongue, but I will translate here.
אני דורש מממשלות המערב
He says, I demand that Western governments do what is necessary to fight anti-Semitism and provide security and safety for Jews worldwide. They would be well advised to heed our warnings. I demand action from them now, or else there will be consequences. That's what he said. What kind of consequences, Bibi? In other words, we support you or else. Or else what? Oh, look what Iran did. I'm not saying that they would do this, but I will ask the question, why wouldn't they do this? They've done this kind of crap before. They're real good at it. And remember, the motto of the Mossad and the IDF is, by deception thou shalt make war. They will lie, they will deceive, they will cover up, they will propagandize. These are not good people. And yet, we're told over and over again that Israel is our greatest ally. And again, I ask the question, with friends like that, who needs enemies?
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary.
And as always, you can get more Tank by going to our website, the WTFReports.com. Click on the sponsors page and it'll take you down to an area where you can click on Get More Tank and get all the specifications and details on how and why this fuel catalyst works. Yes, it's not an additive, it's a catalyst. It makes your fuel burn more efficiently. And that means you're going to have more power. It means your engine is going to run cleaner. And it also means that over a period of time, you will start to see an improvement in your mileage. And that's when things get interesting. Because after running a few tanks of Get More Tank, you will see anywhere between 15 and 20% of an increase in your mileage, depending, of course, on how you drive and your make, model, and year of vehicle. But the bottom line here, folks, is that it doesn't make any sense not to be using Get More Tank, especially with the price of fuel skyrocketing, and it's not looking like it's going to go down. And as an aside, I have to scratch my head because Trump is now saying that, oh, yeah, well, all these other countries are going to have to buy oil from us. We have an oil surplus. Whoa, wait a second. If we have an oil surplus and we have so much oil that we can sell it to other countries, then why is there scarcity? Why is the price of fuel skyrocketing? Are we getting scammed? I think that's an obvious, the answer is obvious. But regardless, if you want to protect your dollar, then you need to be using Get More Tank. So go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, click on the sponsors page, and Get More Tank. All right, it's 34 minutes past the hour, whatever hour you're sitting in, and let's see here. In other news, of course, all this information is coming out about the hokey pokey thingy dingy and the COVID infection that went all over the world 6 years ago. Yeah, oh, that's old news, Dave. We don't have to talk about that. Oh, really? Because the effects are long term. And bless his heart, Representative Ron Johnson was at the congressional hearings, and he had so much data about this, so much data, he didn't even know where to start. I mean, is there a plan to kill everybody? You decide. Here's Ron Johnson.
Listen, I have so many questions that I prepared for you guys. It's really, again, I don't know where you begin when there's, our side gets, I get accused. By the way, there's not been one thing I've said during COVID that's been proven just wrong. I'll challenge anything I've been saying since I've been vilified and ridiculed, and there's not one thing. There may be a couple minor mistakes, but the major points I've made, all the conspiracy theories that I'm accused of, they're all true.
They're not theories.
But yeah, we get accused of misinformation. Dr. Daglish.
I just wanted to add in a couple of comments relative to what you were alluding to. But the obfuscation of the real data was an absolute disgrace throughout. The fact that it got approved on being effective on a relative risk of 95%, when the absolute risk of 0.84 was ignored. And as a clinician, I want to know how many people do I have to vaccinate to have benefit in? It was one in 118. I mean, it's just not worth it. The second thing, when it comes to the side effects, that they basically said, well, we don't have side effects for the vaccine until at least 14 days, because that's how long it takes an antibody to come. So all the people who dropped down dead after 1 or 2 days went down on the list as unvaccinated, because they were only included. Now, I mentioned this.
Okay, I'm going to pause that for a second. They had the cards stacked. Okay, anybody who had an adverse effect or died from the vaccine, they were not listed as vaccine injuries. They weren't considering you vaccinated until 2 weeks after the injection. So if you had any problem within those 2 weeks, they would not list them as an adverse reaction to the vaccine. You talk about stacking the deck.
I know
it's how they rig clinical trials, right?
Yeah,
that's how they rig them.
Yeah, that's how they rig clinical trials. That's exactly what they did. And it's terrifying. Now, I got to tell you, is there a plan? And this is going to sound like one crazy conspiracy theory, but I'm telling you, the conspiracy theorists are batting 1,000 these days. And they still get pushed back. You would think that when somebody comes up with, hey, you might want to look at this particular situation from this angle, and immediately you get attacked and smeared and ridiculed and deplatformed, et cetera, et cetera. And then, after the fact, you find out that they're right. What was it? I think it was the German philosopher Goethe. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Goethe, something like that. He said, all truth passes through 3 stages. First is denial. Second is widespread opposition. And third is widespread acceptance as common knowledge. Yeah, well, we all know that. This is the way it is. So all we crazy conspiracy theorists, we always have an uphill battle trying to get the information out there, and we face all kinds of opposition and ridicule and hatred and anger and blah, 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 blah. And then they find out that they were right, and you don't never get an apology or any type of, not that we need it, but just recognition of the facts to say, well, guess what? I guess you were right. That's because ego and pride are so powerful. So the question is, are they trying to kill us? I mean, seriously. Seriously, if it's deeds and not words, we can hear all the words that we want. All the talking heads and all the networks, et cetera, telling us this and telling us that. But you don't listen to their words. You look at what they do. And when you sit back and you start assessing all the actions that have been taken, now I can ask the question, are they trying to kill us? Do they want to eliminate a huge swath of the human population? And you brought it up before. Those of you who don't know, look up the Georgia Guidestones. They were erected mysteriously back in 1980 in Georgia. Nobody really knows for sure who put them up. But these slabs of concrete were etched in 8 different languages, and the number 1 tenet was, and I quote, maintain humanity at no more than 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Yeah, 500 million people. Now, we're told that there's over 8 billion people on this planet. Now, whether that's an accurate number or not, that's up for debate as well. Some people say, no, it's not 8 billion. It's probably somewhere about 5.5. But I'm not going to get into that debate. There's no way that we can resolve that anytime soon. But the bottom line here is that they have stated over and over and over, and it's documented and, for decades, that the powers that be believe that there are too many doggone people. We have to get rid of a huge swath of the population. And I refer at this point, I have a copy. This is what my last copy here, and I'm not ever going to loan this out again. I've had to get this book at least a half a dozen times because I loan it out and I never get it back. The book is written by William Cooper. It's called Behold a Pale Horse. If you haven't gotten a copy, you really should get a copy and keep it. And by the way, if you do order it, make sure you get the original release because the new ones that they're putting out there are missing a lot of the documentation in here. And this book is loaded with documentation. But I want to share with you on page 116, it's in chapter 9, and they're talking about a study that was made by the Club of Rome, ending in 1968, to determine the limits to growth. Okay, the results are always the same. The Club of Rome was commissioned to develop a computer model of the world so as to predict the outcome of corrections made to social and economic structures by the elect. The Club of Rome was also asked to develop a computer model of a new world order. Both tasks were accomplished. Studies were done to determine a method to arrest the population explosion before the point of no return would be reached. It was determined that an immediate attack on the problem would involve 2 points of intervention. The first was to lower the birth rate, and the second was to increase the death rate. I pause. Now, we know that there have been, shall we say, vaccination campaigns in other parts of the world that rendered the recipients as infertile. Bill Gates? Maybe. Anyway, I continue. To lower the birth rate, several programs were put into motion. The first was the development of positive birth control methods using mechanical, diaphragm or condom, chemical, foam and birth control pills, and medical, sterilization, abortion, and hysterectomy procedures. These were developed and implemented. The women's liberation movement was started with the demand for free abortions using pro-choice as its rallying cry. Homosexuality was encouraged and gay liberation was born. Homosexuals do not have children. Zero population growth became a hot subject at cocktail parties. Individual freedom, the heat of the moment, religion, and the old blue laws sabotaged these efforts. And while zero population growth became a reality in some areas, population increased rapidly in others. Now here's where it gets interesting. The only alternative left to the world's ruling elite was to increase the death rate. This was a difficult thing to do, and no one wanted to pick people out of a crowd and line them up for execution. Neither did they relish the possible consequences of an enraged public upon discovering that they were being systematically murdered. Of course, a very short but very deadly global war using nuclear weapons upon select population concentrations was contemplated, and, to tell you the truth, was not ruled out. The fact that such a population control was even contemplated confirmed the worst fears of those who had participated in the 1957 study. War was put on the back burner to simmer, but may become a reality. In the meantime, something else had to be done that would absolve the decision makers of guilt and place the blame on those who did not lead clean lives. Something that could be blamed upon Mother Nature. What was needed was a bubonic plague or some other horrible but natural disease. The answer came from Rome. Several top recommendations were made by Dr. Aurelio Pecci of the Club of Rome. He advocated that a plague be introduced that would have the same effect as the famous Black Death of history. The chief recommendation was to develop a microbe which would attack the autoimmune system and thus render the development of a vaccine impossible. The orders were given to develop the microbe and to develop a prophylactic and a cure. Listen to this. The microbe would be used against the general population and would be introduced by vaccine. The prophylactic was to be used by the ruling elite. The cure would be administered to the survivors when it is decided that enough people had died. The cure would be announced as newly developed, when in fact it had existed from the beginning. This plan is part of Global 2000. This prophylactic and the prophylactic and the cure are suppressed. Quote, man has skyrocketed from a defensive position, largely subordinated to nature's alternatives, to a new and dominant one. From it, he not only can and does influence everything in the world, but voluntarily or unwittingly can and indeed does determine the alternatives of his own future and ultimately must choose his options for it. Okay, I just shared with you page 167, chapter 9, of Behold a Pale Horse. William Cooper called this 30 years ago. Are they trying to kill us, folks? Well, you know what? People are just starting to find out. There's a lovely woman, her name, she calls herself Shipwreck or Truth Seeker. I'm trying to remember what her real name is. She's a Canadian who is basically relocated to Texas. Some of you who are on social media may know exactly who I'm talking about. But it's funny because this information that I just shared with you from William Cooper 30 years ago, it's finally starting to hook in there. And of course, anybody who talked about this 30 years ago, you were a crazy conspiracy theorist and you hate your country. But you know what? People are figuring it out. Here she is.
Okay, so this video might have to be a two-part because there's so much information in here. However, I've got some wild connections to be made here. Now, this video is for entertainment purposes only. It just so happens that this entertainment's got receipts. So I'm going to talk about a club called the Club of Rome. Apparently, it's a very exclusive club that only accepts 100 members of the brightest minds in the world. Now, Pierre Elliott Trudeau was one of those members, so I highly doubt that this has anything to do with IQ and has a lot to do with how much money you have in your bank, but let's just pretend to believe them. Now, their entire belief system runs on eugenics and neo-Malthusianism, and neo-Malthusianism means population control. So in the 1968, this club was formed, by the way, in a Rockefeller-like committee kind of thing. And it's also very interconnected to other groups such as the Bilderbergs, the Committee of 300, which called us a bunch of useless eaters, and a bunch of secret societies that also want to depopulate us. Now, one of the major goals of the Club of Rome is to reduce the world's population by 2 billion people through war, famine, abortion, and disease. Yeah. I mean, wonderful club. It's also the parent club to the World Economic Forum. Surprise, surprise. So this group decides to team up with the CIA in a project called MKnaomi, where they made the AIDS virus and they decided to depopulate a portion of the population that they deemed unfit.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there. Okay, she's referring to Operation Naomi, and she's referring to the idea of manufacturing something to reduce the population. I hold in my hand the Department of Defense appropriations for 1970. Hearings before a subcommittee on the Committee of Appropriations, House of Representatives, 91st Congress, first session. Part 6. It says chemical and biological warfare. And so we get to, and it's, let me see, page 129 of this congressional record. I read, within a period of 5 to 10 years, it would be possible to produce a synthetic biological agent, an agent that does not naturally exist, and for which no natural immunity could have been acquired. Acquired immune deficiency syndrome? Am I a conspiracy theorist? No, I'm a conspiracy realist, because it's deeds, not words. I now move down the page to Section 2, and it says here, within the next 5 to 10 years, it would probably be possible to make a new infective microorganism which could differ in certain important aspects from any known disease-causing organisms. Most important of these is that it might be refractory to the immunological and therapeutic processes upon which we depend to maintain our relative freedom from infectious disease. Number 3, it says a research program to explore the feasibility of this could be completed in approximately 5 years at a total cost of $10 million. And then further down, it says here, it is a highly controversial issue, and there are many who believe such research should not be undertaken lest it lead to yet another method of massive killing of large populations. Now again, this is from 1970, and they said they could do it in 5 to 10 years at a cost of about $10 million. Well, they got the $10 million. That was 1970. So in the next 5 to 10 years, they worked on it. And then in 1977 was a massive smallpox vaccination campaign in Haiti, Africa, and San Francisco. Well, what do you know? A year or two later, what showed up in Haiti, Africa, and San Francisco? AIDS. And now we're finding out that the hokey-pokey thingy-dingy has destroyed the immune system of a lot of the recipients. It's deeds, not words, folks. Anyway, let's get back to the shipwreck here.
Yeah, let me show you.
Yeah, show us.
So, yeah, pause to read.
Pause to read. Okay, I'm going to pause it and read it. It says here, the project was carried out at Fort Detrick, Maryland. Since large populations were to be decimated, the ruling elite decided to target the, quote, undesirable elements of society, unquote, for extermination. Initially, they targeted the black, Hispanic, and homosexual populations, and currently they are targeting the rest of society. The name of the project that developed the HIV virus that causes AIDS is MKnaomi. The African continent was infected with HIV by a smallpox vaccine in 1977, just like I told you. Members of the gay community in the United States population were infected with HIV in 1978 with hepatitis B vaccine through the Centers for Disease Control, and now the rest of mankind is being infected through the COVID-19 vaccine. Vaccines armed with HIV, autoimmune disease causing agents, illness, and New World Order's modus operandi for mass depopulation. It's deeds, not words.
Basically, they decided to exterminate undesirable elements of society. And how did they do this? Through AIDS. And Project MKnaomi, which, by the way, is a biowarfare and chemical warfare project that the CIA did with Club of Rome. And how did they infect people with HIV in 1978? With the hepatitis B vaccine.
Bingo!
Yeah. Isn't that awesome?
That's awesome.
And if you think that that's far-fetched, basically pause to read this, because it literally states that the microbe would be introduced by vaccine to the masses.
Okay, I'm going to pause it, and I'm going to see if I can... let me see here if I can magnify that here.
Prophylactic would be used by the elite.
No, I can't magnify it. Okay, I'll just let her go ahead.
Elite. The cure will be administered to survivors when it was decided that enough people had died. No red flags there at all. But don't worry, I know what you're going to say. Well, things have changed. That was back in the 70s. Well, let me show you a manuscript called the Global 2000 that they wrote and gave out to governments about population control. That happened in the 80s. Pause to read this. Basically, it is telling the government that the world population growth has dramatic consequences if something is not drastically done. Now it gets weirder, because in my next video, I will show Fauci talking about actually making the pandemic that happened in 2020.
Anyway, I don't know where the part 2 is. I haven't found that yet. And even if I did have it, I don't think I'd have time to play it. We're coming to the closing minutes of today's broadcast. But this has been going on for decades, folks. And of course, those of us who tried to tell you, and you wouldn't listen. Instead, we were just, dismissed as wackos, tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorists, Elvis chasers, UFO abductees, anything that they could do. Oh, then there's also anti-Semites. Oh, it just goes on and on. So I wanted to throw that out there. I wasn't planning on doing that today. When I saw her video earlier this morning, I went, whoa, wait a second. It made me look up a few things to support her. Like she was saying, MKnaomi, the Club of Rome. This stuff has been out there for years and years and years. But people aren't paying attention. That's because we're into game 2 now of the NBA finals. And, of course, the Stanley Cup is going on. And then, of course, everybody's anticipating the release of the new movie Disclosure Project, or whatever the name of that thing is, from Steven Spielberg. So, I mean, everybody is so distracted. It's the bread and games. And those of us who dare to attempt to talk to anybody about anything important, you're shunned and ridiculed and told to shut up. And this is why I'm so frustrated. Like I said in the beginning of the program, I'm so disappointed with so many of the veterans that are out there who served honorably in the military. They did their tour of duty, and they served honorably, and God bless them for doing that. But unfortunately, they've got it in their mind now that since they've been discharged, they did their tour of duty, they're retired, they don't want to upset their pensions. They just want to go along to get along. And meanwhile, I can't help but say, hey, what about your kids? What about your grandkids? Do you care about their freedom? Do you care about their rights? Do you care about their liberty?
Well, I don't want to talk about that. We're not supposed to talk about politics or religion when you're out and about.
Well, I remind you, before there was a free press, you go back a couple hundred years, how did news get around the country? In all the towns and the villages, how did the information about what was going on, how did it get around? It got around by sitting at the pub, tipping a couple of pints, and talking about it. And it was always the musicians and the jesters that would travel around from town to town and village to village, singing the songs and doing the comedy routines, making fun of the leaders and stuff like that. Everybody loved that part of it. But that was the only way that information got around. And then we ended up with a press, the free press. And that worked out well for a while. But then the powers that be figured out how to control that. And now, look around you folks. We don't have a free press. The only way you end up with a free press is if you own it. And then you're free to put anything that you want out there. And thanks to the NDAA that was signed by Barack Obama back in 2012, I think it was, that rescinded the Smith-Mundt Act from 1948, which made it illegal for the government, or for the media, to propagandize the American people. But you see, they did away with that 14 years ago. So now they can propagandize and lie to you. And that's where we are. And that's what motivated me to get back in front of a microphone. I didn't want to do this. I'm not out here for the praise and the accolades, and sure as hell not in it for the money. It's only because once you become aware of a lie, you do nothing to expose the lie, you become part of the lie, and I won't be any part of it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right, that's going to bring us to a close of today's TGIF edition of the WTF Reports. If you're listening on BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, or Facebook, please click like, share, subscribe, and spread the word by word of mouth, because that's the best advertising. And speaking of, do business with our advertisers. Get more tank, the Wave Watch, and get some merch. That's help us to pay the bills. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. I hope you folks have a great weekend. God bless you all. Stay safe. Stay free. Stay informed. And God willing, I'll see you next week.